Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you again for joining into the Be a Better Being podcast. I am Michelle Zellner, your host. I am not with my dear sidekick, Sasha, today, but I have somebody who is super special, and I'm really excited to share this story with all of you. So welcome, my friend, Danny Katoa. How are you this evening, my friend?
Aloha. It's an honor and a pleasure. I'm doing great and excited for the journey.
Well, aloha is right. So I want to just share with the listeners our backstory and then have you maybe give your version of it, and then we'll move into the present time. We just did the math, and we were in college together over 25 years ago at the University of Hawaii, which is why I'm paying homage to the alma mater here with my attire. And I was working as, they called it a tutor, but really I was like a study hall monitor. That's what it was. So the athletic departments, they have study hall that they require their athletes to come to. And I was like that smarty pants girl who was there to help students with any issues they were having with homework or whatever. Basically, I was just there to kind of make sure you attended. I don't know that I helped anybody really, but that is where I first met Danny, this big dude football player who was so quiet, had just this really kind, gentle demeanor, and was always very appreciative of my help. And that is really the very first impression I ever had of him. And, we developed a nice friendship. And then you graduated, I graduated, totally lost touch because back then there was no social media. We didn't keep in touch. I don't even think we had cell phones. I know I didn't.
I didn't.
And then a few years ago, I'm here in Denver being lazy on some Friday or Saturday night. I have college football on, and I hear the announcer say the name Katoa. And my ears perk up. And of course, I have to look, and there's on the back of a jersey, Katoa. And I'm like, well, come on. Clearly, it has to be a relation. Yeah. So I do what any normal girl would do. I start internet stalking and found you on Facebook, sent you a Facebook Messenger, told you how, I heard the name Katoa. Of course, it's your nephew. And we just reconnected that way. And that's really what brought us, I think that was a few years ago. And then one of my visits to Hawaii, we connected in person, got to have a wonderful lunch together and just kind of catch up. And we've been staying in touch ever since. And that's where we are today. So I would love to hear your version of things.
Well, yeah. So no, I think you're pretty much on point with it. I think you kind of devalue your position a bit, and at that time, I know. Let me just share from my perspective. So for me, I was just like lost. First of all, I was homesick, being away from California, and education, like being born and raised in a third world country. I was just learning English when I got into high school, and so when I got to university, football is something like you can adapt to, it's a physical game. Once you learn your position, it actually taught me how to speak English, in so many ways. But when I got to University of Hawaii, not only I was homesick, but I was lost educational wise, like within the educational system. And a lot of it had to do, I think, with just unnecessary pressure that I put on myself, And so when I found the study hall group, I found it like every time I was going to it, I would get my work done. I think that's kind of like reflecting back as an adult, that was kind of an accountability piece, But, not everybody there at the study hall was nice, but I found you to be nice.
That is an understatement. And from my perspective as well, not all the athletes were nice.
Exactly.
None of them wanted to be there. That's for sure. Yeah. And, as kind of the fancy smarty pants, you take the brunt of that, which I think is why I was so drawn to you, because you actually genuinely appreciated being there and appreciated the help. I do want to make one quick clarification, because I know somebody's thinking like, wait a minute, a third world country, but he said he grew up in California. So can you share with the listeners where you're actually from, a little bit about that?
I was born and raised in a little island called Tonga. So we migrated to Inglewood, California when I was 11. And so I had to go back. So at 11-year-old in the Tongan educational system, they go by the UK system. And so I was already going into the 7th grade as 10 years old, right? So when I got here to California, they put me back in the 7th grade. And because of my age and because of my English, it was a challenge for me to learn and grow. And so I had to repeat the 5th grade. I think I had to repeat it so that I can catch up English-wise. Then my 6th grade was a struggle, 7th and 8th. When I got to high school, I started to discover football at junior high at 7th grade. I got introduced to Pop Warner. I couldn't play for 2 years because I didn't know the plays, but I went to practice and just sat on the bench. And then one day, Michelle, I discovered the difference between defense and offense. Like the difference, right? The one goes and tackle the ball and the other one tries to score the ball. And they put me into this position called nose tackle. I mean, I don't know what I was doing, but the guy, some way I interpreted the plays, go get the ball. Just go find the ball. And so my mindset is like, find ball, kill. Like kill the ball. Whoever the guy with the ball, kill it. And so it started from there. I love for the game. And it was funny because the next year I made the All-Star team after sitting on the bench for 2 years, once I understood some ways of how the game was played. But to fast forward to UH, I was in need. Like I didn't want to be there at the study hall, but I knew I needed, and so that I wasn't gonna be able to, I knew just based on my own capability that I couldn't stand on my own, carrying the credits that I was carrying and then taking on sports without any support, and so when you came along, you were just nice, you're gentle, you were patient with me, and I was just like, wow, she's so good. I can't lose. I can't, it was almost like I can't lose this friend. I can't, this is what and then when we, when you graduated and moved forward, and I had an encounter challenge in my senior year, we just like kind of grew apart, and I took a hiatus for a semester and just bummed it. And then I came back and finished school. And after that, I went away to Buffalo, New York, and played arena football for 4.5 years, and came back here to Hawaii and married my wife, and now living in Hawaii. And then when we got reconnected through my nephew playing at BYU, so it's so cool, it's so awesome. You have no idea how much influence you had in my life at that particular time. Yeah.
Well, that just gave me chills, because it's so interesting, right? When we're in our young 20s and we just have these transactional relationships and these fleeting interactions that at that time, you don't ever know what kind of impact you're having on somebody. And it was very different back then because we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet. We didn't have social media like people growing up nowadays do. And so I have to say, throughout all those years, I always thought about my UH football players, always. In fact, many years ago, after I had already moved to Denver, one of my neighbors, turns out, actually knew a couple of the football players that you probably know. They were from Denver. Sadly, one of them is no longer with us. But just that very small world. And, I think about what ended up ever happening to this person? Where did this person end up? How did they end up? Of course, Jason Elam was the football big football star of our time, and he was the kicker for Denver Broncos for many, many years. So that's my little tiny claim to fame. Like, ooh, I went to school with Jason Elam. Now he was a smarty pants, so he didn't have to come to study hall. So I can't say that I had an influence in his life, but it really is special to know that that you are making a difference in someone's life, even if you don't know that that's happening. So I would just tell anybody out there listening that every interaction you're having with somebody, you are impacting them in some way, just like they're impacting you in some way. And, you know, while it is easier to stay connected and follow people these days, I still think that if you can take that time in the moment to really absorb that, it might change how much effort you put into remaining connected or keeping that kind of relationship going. So, I mean, Danny, when you and I got together a couple of years ago in Hawaii and you told me all the things you were doing now, I mean, I was blown away, really, and so incredibly impressed by where you have gotten your life to be. So share a little bit of that journey, if you will. And I want to also just go back to one thing about the trait and the characteristic about you figuring things out. You had these limitations with the language barrier, but you found a way to still figure it out and make it work. What was instilled in you, maybe in Tongan culture, maybe, you know, just the things that your parents taught you? Where did that determination come from? Is that something you've always had? Is that something that just developed organically? Because I think that is a critical trait that has led you to where you currently are. And I want to kind of touch on that a little bit.
No, totally. Let me answer that question right after I answer this question. You say that you did not have a direct effect on Jason Elam, and I would beg the difference that you did have an effect. Yes, he was a smarty pants, and he may not have come personally to the study hall, but you tutored and cared for people that blocked for Jason Elam in order to kick those balls. So
okay,
you had a major effect.
Well, I am going to own that. Thank you very much.
So yeah, you know, the characteristics of not quitting and, you know, determination and then vision is, I got it from my dad. You know, I think he left Tonga when I may have been 4 or 5 years old. And he came here just with a backpack on his back with a hope and a dream, you know, and so his whole vision was, I want to give my children a better lifestyle than when I was given, you know. Did he knew how was that going to look? No, he just knew that this was a land of opportunity, and he was willing to come. And so for that, you know, every time I would encounter certain things, even, you know, in the 5th grade or the 6th grade, the only time I could hear my dad when he was home is when he was snoring and resting. He'd be working 2 or 3 jobs just to provide for us, you know. And one thing he prided himself on is that he wanted my mom not to work, but to stay home and take care of us. So I had 2 sisters and an older brother. Then we later adopted a younger brother, which total of 5 of us. But that was my father's vision, and his heart was to always have somebody at home, that everything started from home. And if you can get home front in order and be in oneness, it doesn't matter what happens around us. It doesn't matter what we have or what we lack or things of that nature, that we can get through if we stuck together, you know. And, you know, I've never seen my dad go to a bar or club or something like that. That wasn't in his demeanor. Like, the free time he had, he would spend it with us, you know, as his children. And so I was always motivated by his work ethic and then his commitment to his roles, that even like I to the T, I put it into action in my household. And then I realized it's not my wife's job to raise my kids or just our kids alone. You know, I am the provider of the house. I am the leader of the house as a man, but I also have a role as a father to play in 2 teenage boys' life, right? And so that's something I've learned through my process of growth. But the qualities of unwavering faith, to go after your dreams and your goal and trust in the Lord with all my heart, I got it from my dad. My parents, they lived it, and so it wasn't something I got from a book or I went to a seminar. I saw it firsthand. When you are faithful to the littlest thing you have, God will give you with bigger things. And I think that's the experience I had with University of Hawaii. I was just faithful to playing the game at a high level. And even with my lack of SAT tests, I was able to go to a junior college for a year and gain enough credits to gain a scholarship to University of Hawaii. And even at University of Hawaii, having the challenge of learning educational wise, God provided, people like you, to be in my life. I know another gentleman at East and West Center. He was a Tongan professor, and he was the head in charge of East and West Center. And the year that I got into some challenge at school, I went to him for help, and he went beyond the call of duty towards his responsibility, to out of his way to help me, and so. So I believe I got it from my dad. Well, I know I got it from my dad, and I cherish that. That's one characteristics that I really cherish in life, and I try to pass down to my children as well.
Well, it's so incredible to have those kind of role models. And I've been incredibly blessed as well with two amazing parents who nurtured us and instilled work ethic in us, and who had expectations for us and consequences if we didn't try at least our hardest to meet those expectations. And yet so many people don't have that. And, that is something that, as everybody has their own unique circumstances that they're coming up with and their upbringing, I think recognizing that there are other avenues for support and guidance, and knowing when you need the help and acknowledging. And I think this is especially true for men. I do a lot of corporate wellness and a lot of men, and men do not want to ask for help. Yes. They don't like to ask for help. They think it's a sign of weakness to ask for help. And yet I always tell them, I think it's a pretty badass sign of strength when you ask for help, because you recognize that, yeah, I can't do this on my own. I don't have the skills, the capabilities, the capacity, whatever it is, and I need help in some way, and being willing and open and accepting of help, and recognizing that when it's up to you to actually reach out and ask for that help as well. And it sounds like that's something that you maybe didn't really have a hard time with. Was it hard for you to realize, yeah, I need help and I'm just going to ask for it? Or like, where does that even come from?
Yeah, again, like I said, I saw it firsthand in my father, right? So this man literally like built a 6-figure business out of nothing after working 3 jobs, to make ends meet. But it was his willingness to go in spite of no resources, right? The lack of resources, but he trusted in something. And I know it was the Lord, because I could hear him praying every morning, praying every night, God open doors that no man can open, or connect me with a person that will help me fix my truck or do these things. And so, as a young kid, it was like, that's that work, and again, I don't, we always had family prayer every Monday, and my dad would remind us of how our family operated, right? Like we have, this is how we operate. It doesn't mean that we fall victim into the world's ways, but this is the right way. This is that we can have access to resources, right? It's even though we may not have all access to resources, but we can be resourceful in our approach, and then that God will provide the people to help us cross the finish line. And so, yes, I think when you're around your peers as men, you always want to, feel macho, right? But deep down inside, we're all, we're all afraid in some way. We're all scared of the unknown, and to also put on the mask of asking for help. But I've never had a problem with asking for help. I knew that there were certain things I lacked. And so I know that somebody else was better at certain things. I never was the jealous person of something. If something, like if I saw the next person was better than me in the way he played something, I would go ask, hey, how did you do that? How did you learn how to pivot so fast, and turn and run? Can you teach me the technique? Can you show me? So I've always approached that to life today, to business, to ministry, to being a father, to being a husband. It's asking questions. God put people around us for a reason. And so just because we lack doesn't mean we lack resources. It's around us. We just got to be resourceful. Yeah.
I love that. That's a great description of how to go about doing that. So let's get into a little bit about, post college, played arena football for a while, and then what?
And so reality hits, right? It's like no more football, like it's done. I'm 27, I think, at the time. And, to get to the league, I'm considered old, I'm like a old washed up, and so hard to accept, but you got to make a move. And so I'm trying to see what's the next move to pivot to. And I knew at that time my wife now came into my life before. She's actually the one that encouraged me to go pursue football and get it out of my system, and so to live it out, see what God has in store. And she blessed me to go for 4 years, and then after that, I came home and said hi to my mom, spent a day with her in LA, and then came over here. And this at that time we were already putting the plan together to how we're going to move forward as a couple and things of that nature. And we both agreed that Hawaii was a special place to raise the children in and grow a family. So my first ever job, I was a school counselor. I utilized my education that you helped me get from University of Hawaii. And that was the wake-up call for me after working a whole month. I got paid $780 and some change after Uncle Sam and Auntie FICA and all of them got a hold of our paycheck. That was the light bulb moment for me. Like it turned on. It's like, man, this can't be real. It just can't be real. I mean, I could eat about $780 worth of food. How you expect me to live on a bi-weekly, paycheck with this? And you tell me that, anyways, that it was, I think my entrepreneur spirit was birthed that day. And I started getting into business. I started figuring out how to get into business. And I went online. Actually, it's the first time I ever used, it's 2003, how to use the internet, Michelle. And I called my wife at her office. She walked me through it. I typed in on Yahoo at the time. We didn't have Google at that time. Yahoo. So I typed in how to start a business. And at that time, it had all these pop-ups, right? All these pop-ups start popping up. We didn't have the security software we have today. So I filled up one of those pop-ups. And that's how I got introduced to the direct sales or the network marketing industry. And it was over from there. It literally changed my life. Now been blessed to work from home for the last 18 years, been able to invest our money in traditional business and other things, be able to get involved in ministry, which is something I vow I will never do. My dad was a pastor, so I vow, I was like, I'm never gonna do ministry. So that's why I was so wild at UH. But
I don't remember any of that.
And so I thank God for his grace, so yeah, but it's been good, just life is good, life is so, so meaningful, understanding my role today as a father that I gotta, there's a next generation behind me, and I paved the way for them. Not only financially, but you know how to how do you treat a woman? All of these things that weren't taught to me as a young man. And so how do you honor a young lady? How do you treat them? How do you care for them? And and make sure that I'm I'm that I'm a living example of that and how I treat my wife, and things of that nature. So.
It's such a great story, and I know there's so much more to the story, but the things that really resonate with me that I want the listeners to hear is it doesn't matter where you come from or how you start. It's what you do with what's around you. It's finding that grit, that determination. It's deciding that you can have and be more than what you start with. And then reaching out, utilizing those resources, tapping into the network around you, being a little bit vulnerable, taking a scary step, doing things that you have no idea how to do, like research, how do you start a business, right? And yet it's so many of these things that because I don't know how to do it, or I don't think I can, or I'm not going to be successful, so why try? These are often just kind of those internal narratives that we create for ourselves that maybe do prevent us from doing some things, exploring some ideas, reaching a different kind of potential than perhaps you even thought could exist or didn't even know could exist, because why would you know that? It was never an option before. And being willing to learn and grow. I've heard you say a couple of times, I recognize now my role. And I'm guessing that there were some growing pains and some learning opportunities along the way, because that's the only way we figure things out, right?
Yeah.
And yet so often we come across a learning opportunity and we don't want to take our own personal responsibility in a situation. We want to be a victim or say, oh my gosh, it's not fair. And then we proceed a different way. Yet there's always a role that each of us plays in every single thing that goes on in our lives. And then it's up to us to decide what we're going to do with that. And it just sounds like, from your perspective, being introspective and reflective and having a set of standards that you want to uphold and live by and follow through on, and then having the other people in your life that are also like-minded and on board with that. Because obviously when you're talking about family members, parents, siblings, kids, spouses, you can't control them, but you can influence maybe some of their thoughts and behaviors based on what you are putting out there.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Man, I don't know where to start. I mean, there's so much to unpack basically based on what you just shared. But I so agree with you, that in so many ways of what you just shared. But I think one of the things from a limitation point of view, we put so much limitations on ourselves because of where we come from or what we don't have or what people may perceive us to be, right? What I understand through ministry today is that, we're all created in His image, and He's given us, every one of us, different giftings from, to each individual, for us to exercise those giftings so that we can become good at it, to create value and be able to pour that out to others as well. But I think because people stop working on themselves, the way systemically we're set up is that you go to school, you get the good grades, you get a good job, but you stop learning, you work that job and you become good at that job, but that job does not give you the tools to have good relationship with your wife, how to honor your spouse, how do you honor your husband, how do you honor your significant others, right? And what I learned today is that we are either we're either growing or we die. We're not staying the same. And I think like the way we're set up to fail in so many ways, systemically, not only health-wise, but financial wise, it just doesn't allow us to live life on our own terms or in that nature. So like, so what I'm understanding today at a greater capacity is the work I did yesterday will not take care of me tomorrow if I don't do new work tomorrow. Why? Like it's like every day is an opportunity to grow. It's not just an opportunity to clock in and clock out. And I think that's what most people do. They just clock in, clock out. Let me do my 40 years and retire 40% of income they couldn't afford to pay me in the first place, right? And there's not a knock on that. I'm not knocking on income brackets, but what I'm knocking on is the system that we choose to get into, and then we cry about it, and then but we spend 40 years there crying about it and not do nothing different, right? And so so I say that once I got my mindset to be wired that every day is a new day to learn something new, and that it presents us a new opportunity to grow, and that the work never really ends. Like every day is an opportunity to grow. Man, it's so fulfilling to operate from that. It's like, okay, God, what do we have today? You know? So it's kind of a forward thinking, positive mindset, positive attitude. You're channeling that energy to other people that you're around, and you want to be around those people, right? Like you don't want to be around people that's gossiping, talking down on people. They look at people as trash versus they see the trash in people versus seeing the treasure in them. They blast them versus blessing them. But I just understand that every day is an opportunity for me to gain tools to help me be a better father, better business owner, a better business owner, a better all the way around in every areas of my life. And I got to finish your book, by the way. That really is a piece of I've already referred to so many other people already. I actually told my best friend, I say, you absolutely got to get this book. Absolutely, got to get it. So I gave you some attention on the book. I said, I know the author personally.
It's funny because I talk about Hawaii in that book, and it really is a special place. There is something about it, something about the people that you meet there that touches your soul in a different way if you let it. It doesn't happen to everybody. Right. But it definitely happened to me. And everything that you just described, the growth mindset, recognizing that there's opportunity every day, it's your perspective. If I want to be a better father, a better business owner, that is a better being. That is the whole point of be a better being. Mm-hmm. If you are not 100% satisfied with where you are physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, with your relationships, with whatever, you have to do the work. Right? Be a better being, do something different. If you want to be better, you have to do better. And that's, it's that hard reality to grasp, is that this never ends. The growth doesn't end until literally you're done. and yet I think we're so like you said, in a clock in, clock out society. We think, okay, I've achieved this goal, I can stop.
Right.
And I agree. I think of it, we're never really floating. We're either sinking or swimming, because even the act of floating requires effort. Yeah. And a human, from just like a human perspective, a human doesn't want to be stagnant. A human wants to be challenged. Sometimes challenges are given to us. We don't ask for them. They're just here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have to deliberately create a challenge for ourselves. But whatever your situation in life is, if you are not feeling challenged, you're not going to feel a sense of value, purpose, contribution, accomplishment. And all of those things are necessary to be a healthy, happy, thriving human. So, gosh, Danny, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours and hours, but I think this might be a good place to wrap us up, because it's ending on such a positive note, I think, because it gives people, I think, the inspiration, the idea that, yeah, it all relies really within me. First of all, I have to believe that I can. And then I have to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to make it happen? And that's where really the hard work comes. So last final words of wisdom, what can you share with the audience?
I think, as simple as I think we make it so hard because we overwhelm ourselves with about thinking about it, right? Like, and so my encouragement is to start messy, like do it messy, right? And then you'll find God will put people in your life to help you, but you got to take that first step. And most people don't take the first step because they want to be experts at it before they take the first step.
Yes.
And then 5 years from now, you still searching to be an expert and have not taken the first step, right? I liken one of my wealth mentors said, he said, Danny, in order for things to change, you must change. If you don't change, nothing change, and it's simple yet profound, but it goes right through this year to the other for so many people, and I think, one of my spiritual fathers shared this. It was so profound. He said, I used to think that I was chained up by my strongholds and how I was brought up, the lack of resources and how poor my parents were and how the environment we lived in, I didn't have this. And I realized that, no, that's just where I was brought up. I wasn't chained up. I was holding on to the chain, and all I needed to do was let go of the chain and actually put myself in a different environment. And then it was fruitful. It could be fruitful when you put yourself in a different environment. But most times I think is that analogy, Michelle, is that we put ourselves in the box, then we spend our whole entire life trying to get out of a box we don't even belong to in the first place. That we're the one holding on to the chain. We're not being chained up, we're free. And so I appreciate you. I thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm trying to hold my tears in.
Oh,
I'm so grateful for you. I know for a fact, even though I don't do nothing with my degree today, but it's one of the most pivotal height of my life attaining it, because it really opened up my wings for what God has in store, in my adult life to go after those things today. And so I'm forever always grateful for you.
Oh, well, Danny, it's my honor to have you on today too, as well, and that we've reconnected. And I am confident that the connection will never be broken again. So I definitely embrace the idea a long time ago that everything is happening is what is supposed to be happening. And it's what you do when things are presented to you that are going to, take you in one direction or another. And to your point about, not starting anything or not doing anything because we're waiting for it to be perfect, or because we're afraid of not fulfilling the outcome, or maybe we're afraid of success. There's all kinds of reasons why we don't do things that maybe we want to do or we know we should do. So I think this is a great story to share with people, that the point is you have to do. And that means you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to step out of your fear into your fear, do whatever you need to do, because you are in control of your destiny. You really are. And whether you have a strong spiritual belief, a faith, a guiding light in any kind of structured way or not, you definitely need to find the guiding light, whether it's within you, it's with the people around you, it's to, some higher party that you believe in. Having that guide, I think, is incredibly important for the journey as well. So thank you, Danny, for sharing all your words of wisdom and your story. I know people are gonna really resonate with the things you shared, and it's been super fun for me, even getting to hear some of the backstory that I never knew, because, when you're in college, I don't really care where you came from.
Right.
Like, we don't talk about those things, right? So it's definitely been fun. And I look forward, I'll be coming to Hawaii, as many times in the next few years, hopefully very often. So I personally look forward to just kind of getting to know a lot more about you, your family, everything that you're doing, to see how what this is all for and what we're going to do going forward to make really, I think, a big change and really help others as well. So thank you, my friend. Aloha, mahalo. Love you dearly. And thank you everybody for listening. And as always, I think you know by now what to do. It is your job to go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.